In this lesson, we'll be sketching our motion in the Puppet tool. So in our last lesson, we were able to create the different poses for our spaceman, but now let's actually give him something to jump about. So let's go to the beginning of our timeline, and we'll close up our spaceman layer, and let's go to our front legs. So, well, actually, no, let's start with our alien. Okay, so our alien back here, he's just hanging out, and he's way too calm for what's happening. He like this is maybe supper to him. I'm not sure. Maybe he's got his science class has some deadlines he has to meet, and he has to experiment on this human. So let's go ahead and we'll get our puppet pen tool, and let's select our spaceman. We'll just hit him right between the eyes, and let's see what we got. So for right now, our expansion, let's put that. I think 1 actually look good, and then he'll be having some primitive movement. So let's go ahead and leave that under 200. So like, let's just say 185. And now let's add some pins. So we'll add a pin for his hand, and then we'll put one down here to kind of hold his belly in place, and we'll add a pin for his other hand. So what we're going to do is we're going to sketch our motion now, because before we manually went in and we told the puppet pins where to be and what to do, and we keyframe those. And so now we're going to sketch the motion. So if you hold Control and you just go ahead and when you hover over that pin, then you get a stopwatch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sketch the motion of the hand. So when I click and hold, you can notice in the timeline that time is now passing. That is because it's recording what I was doing. And so you can now see really what was happening. So I'm going to come right when he stops moving. I'm going to finish off that movement. So maybe now he's like, finishes it out. Okay, so now I'm going to go back, and I'm going to go to the other hand. And I'm going to try to kind of mirror the movements. And so luckily, when we do this, we actually are able to see what the other side's doing. Let me deselect that, turn off his mesh, and see if I'm happy with this. So now he's upset. He's trying to get him, and maybe he succeeded. I don't know. You tell me. All right. So now we have kind of mastered the motion sketch. Now let's move on to something a little bit harder. So now we'll go to the front legs. So we'll select the front legs, and with our pen tool, we'll just kind of hit anywhere on them, and then our legs and everything will show up. All right, so we're going to grab our kneecap and our foot. So these two pins, and let's go to the beginning of our timeline. Make sure we're at the very beginning, and we're going to just create some walking motion. And so this will be like little shallow like a shallow oval. And just kind of watch what I'm doing here. And so I'm holding my control, and I'll just start the walking motion, and just do this to the end of your timeline. And if you notice that when I started to move, that it actually looked like that our starch was left behind. Don't worry about that. That's just it's just a preview of your mesh. So it doesn't take that starch into account. So everything looks great. Now let's do the other leg. So I'll start at the beginning of my timeline and select the foot and the elbow or knee, and we'll just start our walking motion. And I'm going to try to sync it up to where when this leg's going forward, then this one is coming shortly afterward. I just don't want them to move at the same time. So I'm going to do my best here. That looks good. So kind of keeping the same pace as the other leg. So let's see what that looks like. That's believable. I think that looks great. Make sure we don't have any crazy distortion in there at the top. All right, I think that looks great. Now let's move on to our back leg, and we'll create some motion for that. So we'll grab the same, the knee and the foot, and let's just go ahead and start our motion. This one's a little bit harder because I don't have the same the guide that I had, but let's see what it looks like. We'll just kind of zoom back a little bit. I'm going to actually hit 0 on my keyboard, get a RAM preview. That looks okay. Not as happy with that back leg. I'm going to try that one again. So just hit Control Z, and we'll just try that one again. This time I went with the other direction. So now let's see what that looks like. I'm a little happier with that one. Okay, I can live with that. Okay, now let's move on to the claw. So let's see here. Here's our claw. Let's select that layer. I don't believe we've added any pins to this layer, so we'll get started. We'll add one right in the palm. We'll add one at the base, and then let's add a pin to each little tip here. And so what we want the claw to do is we want the claw to kind of jump out every 2 seconds or so and kind of coil back up. And so we'll come to the beginning of our timeline, and we're going to select all 3 of the points for the hand. We'll bring them in for the starting position, and maybe it's kind of a jiggly motion, and it comes down and goes back up and then comes down. And so we'll just try and keep an eye on our timeline. And so like he's jumping at the 1 second, 3 second, and 5 seconds. So we'll try to have the claw come down in those increments. So let's hold our control, and we'll get started. And then the 3, and then the 5. Looks like I brought it back way too soon. So or way too far on this one. Well, actually, that doesn't look bad at all. It kind of goes up inside the ship, doesn't it? But I kind of wanted it to retract by this 6 second mark. So we'll do that one more time. Control Z, and let's start over. Okay. So 1, 5. Okay, let's see what that looks like. That looks pretty good. All right, I'm happy with that. Okay, now what we're going to do is before we're finished, we're going to manually go in, and we're going to grab his little pincers, and in a couple of spots, we're going to just close them up. And so maybe here, we'll close them up. So just click and drag and just close them. And then what should happen is that there's so many keyframes going on that it automatically opens them back up. So you don't even have to worry about that. So maybe we'll close them again here before they get to him. So maybe it's like clamping down. Maybe he's got a nervous habit. And then he's going to maybe do 2 more closes over here. So close, close. And maybe he closes again right here. Awesome. Awesome. All right, now let's go ahead and get a RAM preview of that. So hit 0 on your keyboard, and we can see our man jumping and the walking motion. I think that looks great. It looks so good. All right, now we have some awesome motion that we sketched using the motion sketch with the puppet pen. And so in our next lesson, we're going to be combining some of our layer transformations with all of our puppet tool transformations.